What's up, y'all? I really hate doing lives. I think I said that the last time I did a live, but gotta start doing them. Anyway, um, just talk to myself for a while. Yeah. Anyway, I was thinking um, that you got to get okay with being a bad guy to people. I think a lot of times we want people to like us, and that's kind of impossible. And I think it's definitely impossible to be authentic and have everybody like you, right? You have to do too much kind of like tiptoeing and bullshitting, and you can't, you have to be real quiet. You can't say shit, you know what I mean? But you're going to be like miserable that way. And I was thinking about, I'm real interested like in the Will Smith story with the slap and the Chris Rock thing, and because I find it fascinating because Will Smith, it was like he was the quote unquote perfect kind of guy, like really good, nice, wholesome, just positive, just seemed like he did everything that's supposed to be right for people to like him, and people liked him, but I felt like I kind of knew like he was always hiding another side of himself, which a lot of people do this, you know what I mean? Because we think it's, um, we're being good and all that stuff. And I heard he did ayahuasca a lot. And one thing about ayahuasca, it like, I hear it can reveal the shadow, the side of you that is kind of like in the subconscious mind, like your shadow side, the side that you don't want to look at, kind of thing. And I think that aggression, that masculine aggression, was something that he didn't want people to see, right? And I think, um, and it's almost like the universe forced it to come out. Like, oh, you don't want to show people this? You're going to hide it from people? Like, you're going to abandon that aspect of yourself? Well, then I'm going to force the whole world to see it now. Right? And now, I think when people seen it for the first time, like, oh shit, Will Smith's got aggression. You know what I mean? And it just came out like that. People kind of turned on him, and he became the villain. And that had to be completely hard for him because he was always seen as the good guy. And now you have to be in the villain's shoes. And I think that process, even though it's probably really hard for him, is healing, because we all have that side. We all have that good guy side, and we always have that villain side. And a lot of times, our villain side is when we're too much in our kind of nice guy, or what good, trying to be the perfect good person. That villain side is hidden from us, and that's why I think a lot of people, it's like you see where they think they're the good guy, but they don't see their villain side, but everybody else can see it, and then they look like kind of hypocrites. That's why I think it's like when you see people on the left and the right, they may have this perception of themselves that they're so holy and so good, and everybody's looking at them, and the right is looking at people on the left like, you're a fucking bitch, like you're an asshole, like, and you're trying to act like you're so high and mighty. And the same thing in like on the right, people see people on the left talking about family values and all this stuff like they're so good. and it's like you're an asshole, like, you know what I mean? But you can, like, a lot of times we can't see it because it's hidden from us. You know, a lot of our negative things that we thought that we were taught were so bad, they still exist, and other people can see them, but a lot of times we can't see them. And so I think um, and I think that's kind of like when you hide an aspect of yourself and from others. Um, in a way, it's necessary, but I think it's also like self abandonment. So you have to. I think it's good to be it's good to be get comfortable with like being the bad guy. You know what I mean? Like I feel like right now I'm like, well, I've always kind of been kind of comfortable being the bad guy, but I feel like not the sober me. It was like the alcohol induced me was okay with being the bad guy. And now it's like the kind of like, and it's now it's like I'm getting used to being the bad guy, like in other people's stories, um, in the sober me, or the, you know, the alcohol for me. I'll say that to keep it real. Um, and so like, and I'm happier. Like I'm happier when I'm just like, you know, being I'm freer. I feel free and I feel more authentic when able to like, because a lot of times like to be light, you have to uh, you have to hide aspects of yourself. It's like if you're dealing with somebody on the right, you know, you have to try not to, like, it's hard to be yourself. Like you might just be like, I fucking hate the real you might hate Donald Trump or hate certain things or not like certain things about Republicans, but in the name of being liked, you might have to hide that or water it down or bullshit. When you're being your authentic self, it's kind of like, yeah, you're like, you know, I still like you, like I can still like you as a person, but I can disagree with some of the shit you believe, right? And the same thing about the left. It's like dealing with a lot of people on the left, you have to kind of like hide some of your views and your opinion on things for people to like you. And you have to be okay with not really caring if people like you. Like you have to be okay enough with yourself to be like, I really don't give a fuck if you don't like me. And it doesn't mean I don't like you. Like you could hate me and I could still be like, yeah, that person's fine with me. Like I don't really have a problem with them. Right? Like so, and although it's like, yeah, we want people to like us, but that's impossible. So you might as well just like free yourself from that bullshit and just learn to be yourself. And it's going to be, it might be uncomfortable, you know, like, especially when you're like making your opinions public. A lot of people that used to like you will stop liking you. And you could be completely right about the shit you say, but the problem is everybody thinks they're right, right? So like, even if you're, you know, right, well, they think they're right too. So they might perceive you as the villain because they make up things in their mind like you're this, you're that, right? Even if you have no, even if you're not intentionally trying to like hurt anybody or whatever, you know. But in people's stories, they can make you the villain, and you have to be okay with that because sometimes people are delusional. You know what I mean? So let them not like you. Like we really shouldn't need. I feel like it comes from trauma when you need everybody to like you, when you need everybody's validation, right? And so you have to be okay with being a villain. You have to be okay with being a bad guy, you know, even if it's uncomfortable, you know, at first. I feel like if you want to be more free, right? So, you know, and it's more important that you like it. Like, I like me more when I just can say what I have to say. You know what I mean? And be who I am. You know what I mean? I like me more. So even if everybody don't like me, it doesn't. I'm happier. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm happier. Like when people don't like me for real. Like when everybody likes me, it'd be like, fuck, this shit is boring. Like, you know what I'm saying? I like it's this, and so I think with the Will Smith, and it's like it's better when you like force yourself to be the bad guy, and until like God does it. Because I feel like with Will Smith, it was like, it was like God was like, yeah, you can be the bad guy now, whether you want to or not. I feel like it's easier when you just like expose yourself, because I feel like that's what the world's going to. Like we're all getting exposed. I'd rather like pull an 8 Mile and like expose myself, because before like the universe is going to expose me like unwillingly. You know what I mean? Like, you got to go out kicking and screaming. You better off just like, because I can feel it. Like, I can feel when people don't like me. I know like a lot of people since I started making these. It's crazy, bro. Like, this shit, I'm sorry. But I just looked at the clock and I seen, as soon as I looked at it on the timer, it said 1111. Like, I'm gonna open up. Like, I've been seeing a lot of these synchronicities, and a lot of times it made me feel like I'm going crazy. But like, it's happening so much, it's getting absurd. This shit is real, bro. Like, this shit is real. But like, yeah, you got to be okay with like, in the shadow don't even like have to be something bad. It could be like good shit. Like some people are uncomfortable being the good guy. You know, some people are like, and it's like they're the villain and their shadow is the good guy. Like they're really a lot, you know what I'm saying? And so the shadow doesn't even necessarily have to be like aggression or jealousy or anything like that. It could be good stuff. Some people want to be like seen as like the bad guy. You know what I mean? And some people want to be seen as a good guy. I think it's to realize to be okay. And then I think a lot of times when you're like, it might be like when you're not conscious of your dark side, it makes the dark side worse. And so it could be it could be comfortable to you because it's like um because like you can't see it, and so you feel like you're just such a great person, but everybody else can see that and they'd be like, "Man, that motherfucker is like terrible." You know what I mean? Or maybe they do think you're a good guy, but you know, a lot of times the people that aren't aware of their dark side are the worst. When you bring that shit to the light, you might come to find that it makes you a better person. And I think it's part of like a self-love journey. A lot of times people talk about self-love and it's like, you know, it's this love and light shit, but sometimes it's like facing the fact that you have a lot of aggression. Sometimes it may be facing the fact that you got jealousy issues, that you got all these issues. So sometimes the journey before you get to sometimes you have to go to the journey of facing things you didn't want to face before you become like maybe like Muji or Eckhart Tolle. You might have to face the darkness, and that could be uncomfortable. It could be shadow work and be like fucking miserable. You know what I mean? Especially if you're a person that wants to be seen as good, you might have to like, bring stuff up from the unconscious and see yourself more accurately. You face the different aspects of yourself. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. So I think it's like, and we have to realize sometimes it's like it may not, it doesn't have to mean that you're actually the villain, but you have to be okay with being perceived as the villain. A lot of times you can be, and a lot of times I feel like it's impossible to be good, truly good, if you're not okay being disliked. Because a lot of times the things that'll get you disliked are the things that are the more righteous path. A lot of times truth will get you more disliked than anything. You'll be like, damn, you'll be thinking you'll be out here doing good, and you're like, like I'm gonna do good, and people are gonna like me, and like, nah, you can start doing good and realize like you're the villain now. Like people hate you because people have so much conditioning and societal beliefs that were programmed into them, and and they're not gonna think they're the ones full of shit. They're gonna think you're full of shit because it's easier to accept you're full of shit than to accept that they're full of shit. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to accept that I'm full of shit because that doesn't feel good. That's why people are always focused on everybody else's bullshit. Oh, I can't believe he did that. Oh, I can't believe he said that. I can't believe he's an asshole. Da da da. It's easier to do that than look at like, damn, like to focus on yourself. That's why a lot of the news is got people like worried, like focus on things outside of them. Focus on the other. Focus on how the other's an asshole. Don't focus on how you're an asshole. You know what I'm saying? Sweep that shit under the rug. Like, don't look at that. You know what I mean? But when if you have the courage and the strength to look at your bullshit, like I'm trying to like now be focused like on my bullshit, and it's hard because I don't want to see my like fucked up shit. You know what I mean? That shit can get depressing as hell when you see your issues. You know what I mean? But it's the only way you're going to overcome things is if you see them and you bring things that are in the darkness into the light. And sometimes you have to, that's part of being okay with being the bad guy in other people's stories. Because you may just like, a lot of times people don't see the whole picture. You set boundaries for yourself. People think you're the bad guy. They don't, because a lot of times people perceive things through their distorted perception, or they have selective memories, you know what I mean? Because they want to protect their egos. I've done it. I do it. It's human, right? Like most of the shit I say is shit that I've done, you know what I mean, from or whatever, or even if or maybe not currently, but I at least have done it, So I'm not like speaking on anything from sitting on my like, throne. Like everything. A lot of the shit that I say is shit that I've gone through and just learned. You know what I mean? Some of this shit isn't shit that really applies to me, but you know. But yeah, it's like yeah, and then eventually it might at first it could be uncomfortable being the bad guy, but because that's the beginning. But then you just get okay with it, right? And it feels good because it's like you don't care. You know what I'm saying? You can be free and you can be you the way you were meant to be before, because a lot of times we learn to hide aspects of ourselves for our survival, you know what I mean, as kids. Our perception, it could depend on who we're raised by, what culture we're born into, the neighborhood, a lot of different aspects. But those people, they teach you what's right, what's wrong, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. And then so the things that are like you learn are unacceptable, those are the things that a lot of times we put in the shadow, but they're still there because the subconscious is what guides um, our behavior, not our actual conscious mind. So even though we can't see it, it's still there. And that's why people be like, how can he not see that he's a racist? How can he not see that he's this? How can it's because people, the mind protects us from certain things that maybe we can't handle or don't want to see, right? There can be something about you, and it'd be like you don't want to see it because that shit can make you suicidal. You know what I mean? If you see, if you see that, so maybe when you're ready to see it and you can handle it, it'll still be hard, but it'll be revealed to you. And then once you can see it, you can accept it. Sometimes love is like self-love is just acceptance. It don't mean you have to just fall in love with your certain things, bad things about yourself. But you can accept it like, yeah, that's the part of my story, right? I got that trauma, that's part of the story. I have to accept that and not be in resistance. Sometimes love is acceptance. A lot of times people talk a lot about love, but they don't really actually know what love is. You know what I mean? You know, sometimes love is accepting the things that we don't want to accept about ourselves and about others. You know, sometimes love is, you know, there can be the feminine love of nurturing and things like that, but then there could be the masculine love of telling you something you don't want to hear that hurts your feelings, but it's for your best interest, right? And I think a lot of times we demonize masculine love because we we want that feminine love that's like, oh, you're perfect just the way you are, and da da da. And I'm not saying that's not true and that's necessary, but I believe you also need a like the masculine love of, no, you need to get your shit together. You need to get healthier. You need, you know, you need, you know, to take personal responsibility. Sometimes that hurts and it doesn't feel good, but it doesn't mean it's not love. And I think that's where the society gets wrong. We think love is always this easy thing, you know. You know, sometimes love isn't take a break. Sometimes love is get to work, right? So like we have to understand that there's different forms of love. There's a feminine love, which is great and amazing, and we definitely need that. But then there's the masculine love also that I think a lot of times we don't recognize it as love because it doesn't necessarily feel like love. Like some of the best things that have helped me are the masculine love that made me fucking feel like shit, made me want to fucking kill myself. But that my greatest breakthrough was when I'm like, yeah, that makes me feel like shit, it hurt my feelings, but it's true, right? So a lot of feel good, right? So but we have to realize that, you know, it just because something doesn't feel good doesn't mean it's not good for you. Just like vegetables, a lot of times they don't taste good, but they're the best thing for you, right? We much rather have cheesecake, you know, but I think we live in a society that just wants the cheesecake, and it's like, you know, and so and then I think a lot of times it's like certain things, you know, people get triggered due to their trauma. You know, I'm switching subjects a little bit, but um, I was thinking about like the right and the left, and there's a lot of this stuff about how people on the left are snowflakes and how people on the right are snowflakes. And And I think it's due to trauma. I think a lot of times when you're young and impressionable, and like say like you're black, you face a lot of trauma. Racism really affects you and hurts your psychology and certain things when you're young, and then so you're kind of like as you get older, you're like hyper vigilant to notice racism. You know what I mean? And then that's why I think some people on the left are like, oh, racism this, misogyny this, homophobia this, because it really fucked them up and fucked their psychology and gave them a lot of trauma when they were younger. And but and we need to like um, do something about certain things. But I think when you heal a lot of these things, every little micro thing about racism and all these other things don't hurt you as much when you're secure in yourself. Like I don't really care as like racist shit would trigger me more when I was younger. Once I healed those stuff and I started to like just have like I love who I am. I love my race. Like, and you accept certain things more. Like the racist shit don't even really bother me. Just like if somebody called, because like when you're secure and shit, like I feel like it doesn't bother you as much. It's like if somebody calls you ugly and you're like secure with how you look, it doesn't. You're not going to sit around crying. But if you're like, um, if you're insecure or you have trauma in a certain area, it like hurts bad. And so I think that's why our society, instead of like focusing on about changing everybody and everybody be less racist and everybody be less this and that. And I'm not saying like people shouldn't. People should definitely, go away from a lot of these hateful things. But I think we also need to focus more energy on healing ourselves and all that shit. You know what I mean? Instead of focusing on what everybody else needs to do. You know what I mean? Focus on what you can do, what you control, because you can't control other people. Because a lot of times, the more we try to control things, the more messed up they get. Like if you look at it, like the more I feel like the left obsesses about racism, the more racist the other side gets, right? And so a lot of times, the more you try to control things, the more out of control they get. So sometimes I think we need to do, even though it's hard, putting the focus on ourselves. I think that's something that we need to do because a lot of times people like, when you try to give people advice too, like people like, and it's unsolicited, even if it's true and it's helpful and you have the best interest in mind, people like hate you more. Like I've noticed, you know, I be having like good intentions with a lot of the videos I make, and I can tell like um, people like will hate you for giving them advice, even if it's good for them, even if it's true. So sometimes it's like I'm gonna do what I do and say what I say. You know, I don't really um, care all like that, to be honest. You know, I just feel like what my calling is, I'm gonna do it. But I do think sometimes you do have to tone down of giving people advice, um, because a lot of times, even if it's good advice, even if it's true, um, people don't like advice that they feel like is unsolicited, even if they like clicked on your video and said it in the title. Sometimes they might be like, "Well, I still wasn't expecting that." You know what I mean? I don't want because people don't. I guess people don't want growth forced on them, and they feel like it was forced. Like I'm not really trying to grow. Like some people don't want to. They can't handle it, and so sometimes it's one thing I have to learn to like maybe is to you know is to like sometimes not give people advice. But then again, I don't know. This shit is complicated because I'm gonna be me, and I'm gonna say what I feel like called to say, and when I feel like it's needed. And so that might just mean that I just got to be comfortable with being the bad guy, and I can be comfortable with being the bad guy because honestly, I feel happier when I'm the bad guy, or when I'm perceived as the bad guy. I know I'm not really the bad guy because I know my intentions are good. You know what I mean? But I can be okay with being perceived, and I don't like intentionally be trying to hurt people. You know, people are going to perceive things at the level of consciousness they're at. And so if they see me as the bad guy, they see me as the bad guy. I'm just, and I guess I am a little bit of a bad guy. I mean, I feel like, aren't we all? You know, I feel like we all kind of have a little, we just have to kind of like hide that shit a lot of times. I feel like that's the name of the game, is just kind of like hiding your shit. And then that's what two people like talk shit about you, and it's like the only difference between us is like you hide your shit and I don't. Um my aunt, I seen she re she put a little meme up or something like that, a post on her channel, and it was, stop judging people that do the same shit you do. They just hide it better. And I'm like, that's facts, bro. So like, and I'm probably guilty of that shit too. I'm not. I don't know. I don't think I really do that much, but you know, um, a lot of times it is too. Like a lot of times people feel like you, but they'll be like, "Oh, I can't believe you said that. That's cringe." And it's like, well, you felt the same way. You just hid that shit. So it's like you're just more cowardly than I am. That's the only difference. Like people, like a lot of times shit that you go through, and if you share it, it's like you went through the same bullshit, but you're just afraid to share it, and you gonna act like something's wrong with me because it made you feel uncomfortable. And like if you feel uncomfortable, that's your feeling. Like I don't give a fuck. Like I don't feel embarrassed or uncomfortable. So that's some issue that you need to like deal with. You know what I'm saying? Like that's your feeling. That's not mine. So if you felt a feeling of cringe or you felt a feeling of embarrassed for me, like you feel embarrassed. I don't feel embarrassed. I feel good. So the fuck is you talking about? Because I don't care. Like because like you care what people think more. I care what people think, but like obviously not as much as some other people do. You know what I mean? And I guess oversharing can be a problem, like but at the end of the day, it's kind of like I don't care as much because it's like life is short, and it's like Coleman. I feel like my consciousness is going to live on, but Coleman, the ego, it's going to be dust in the wind. So why do we care so much? Like it doesn't matter. And how many people do you need to like you? You shouldn't need that many people to like you, especially if like you're an introvert, right? Like people introverts be caring what people think, and it's like fucking why you don't even like people, like you don't even hang around with people like that, and you're obsessed with what people think. Like it makes sense of like a real extrovert person cares, but it doesn't shouldn't matter if you're kind of introverted or if you like being alone. Maybe you're not even an introvert. You just, well, like I said, it's introvert, whatever. I don't know. But, my point is that, like, if you don't even hang around people that much, then you should feel free to just say whatever the fuck you want because it's like you don't even hang around people like that. You don't even want to hang around people like that. So what the fuck if you care? if people, and that's what I'm starting to realize. It's like I don't even fucking want to. I don't even hang around a lot of people. I like being by myself. I think it's definitely. I mean, it's good to be around people, but I'm just kind of making a point, right? I think, you know, but yeah, man, I gotta get ready for work. Oh shit, I'm fucking late. All right, sorry. All right, y'all, rambling too much. All right, I'm gonna shut this live down. All right, never mind. All right, peace out, chat. Shit, I don't even do these often. I don't even know how to stop this again.